Welcome to the Portland Culinary Podcast on Portland Culinary Radio. I'm Steven Shomler, your host. Today we are talking hot sauce. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with hot sauce. I love hot sauce, but I'm like a wimp and I can't eat very much, but I love the flavor it brings. Whereas my sweetheart, she likes to sweat when she eats. She loves hot sauce. And I ran across a couple years ago, actually, probably more than a couple years ago, Marshall hot sauce. Is that how you guys say it?
Sure.
Yeah, we kind of leave it up to whoever. Some people say Marshall's Haute Sauce, which is how it's spelled, H-E-U-T-E. But all of our friends and family pretty much just say Marshall's Hot Sauce.
So I'm so excited. Sarah and Dirk Marshall, you guys are the founders of this amazing, locally based Portland hot sauce company.
We are.
We just have a few of those here in town.
So many.
But you guys are among some of the best, in my opinion.
Thank you.
I try not to play favorites too much, but man, your stuff is good. And if I like a hot sauce, that is a big deal. Because, that's not my jam necessarily, hot sauce, because I'm a wimp.
I was going to say, we make something for everybody. So if you're into really hot stuff, we got you. If you're not, we got you too.
I like that. Okay, so questions to ask everybody on my podcast. So Sarah, where were you born?
I was born in Roseburg, Oregon.
Okay, and where'd you go to high school?
I went to Sandy High School.
And what's the mascot there?
The Pioneer.
The Pioneer. Okay, and Dirk, how about you? Where were you born?
Yeah, I was born in Eugene, Oregon.
Okay, and where'd you go to high school?
I went to Thurston High School in Springfield.
And mascot?
Colts.
The Colts.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, so you both came to Portland at different times for different reasons. I love the story of how did you end up in Portland. So Dirk, what brought you to Portland?
Well, growing up, Portland was the epicenter of everything cool that happened in Oregon for me. Growing up liking strange music, and that's where the concerts would happen. They wouldn't play really Eugene at the time. So you always came up here, and it was super cool. The city at the time was very different than it is now. There was many record stores. There was Big Bang was like an alternative clothing store at the time. There were so many cool things to come see here.
It was so much cooler than Eugene.
It was so much cooler. And so the dream was to someday move here. So I left Eugene, lived a year in Seattle, and then all my friends were in Portland. So I said, I got to go there.
And that was 2001.
Yeah.
So you came to Portland for the glory that is Portland.
Yes. And I got to live in it for a while before it started changing, which I still love the city, but I'm just thankful for those years I got to see what I dreamt it would be like.
Yeah, you saw a different version than maybe some people that just moved here now.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, and how about you, Sarah? What year did you come to Portland?
I came in 1996. I moved to Portland to go to nursing school. So I went to Linfield in Northwest Portland.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you came here for nursing school
I did. I dropped out, though. I'm not a nursing school graduate. It was not for me. I didn't know that I get woozy when I see blood. That's an important detail. They should have you see it before you commit to going to school somewhere. I realized that. But I did like helping people. So I instead stopped going there and then went to PSU for social work.
Oh, very good. Oh, social work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have about 10 plus years in the nonprofit world myself. So, all right. So 2003 is when you guys met. And where did you guys actually meet?
We worked at Urban Outfitters together. And we were both going to PSU. So we worked there together for a while. And then we ended up working at PSU together as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So tell me about the first time you guys actually hung out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we... Sarah was like my boss at Urban Outfitters, essentially, and she was super cool, always has been. And she was going out with some friends, and I knew a couple people that lived here, but she said, hey, do you want to go to a show? And it was at Satyricon, and I said, sure. And so she invited me to see two black metal bands, Engorged and Impaled, one of which... had like a bucket of blood or something going on.
One of the band guys worked at a meat market, and so he that was right up behind the store. That's why we were going. We were like part of this little Northwest 23rd community. So he worked at a meat market, and he would bring buckets of blood and sometimes hearts and things, like whatever was left over from the butcher shop, and they would be part of their stage show. So they would wear these black aprons and like cover themselves in it. And I didn't even realize that. Did you know what you were getting into when
I had
was
no
having you
idea.
come?
No.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So I was smitten at that point.
And you guys became friends, then eventually started dating, and you've been married together, married now, almost 15 years.
Yeah, in September, it'll be 15 years.
That is fantastic. And so as I'm hearing it, listening around the edges, you've worked together a lot.
Yep.
And now you run a company together.
We do. And the first thing people hear when they realize we work together, they're like, oh, I couldn't do that with my partner.
All the time.
But that's all we've ever done. In every job and every career, we've worked together, and we really like it. We like to be around each other, so it makes sense that we do it. When we did social work, we did work in separate places, but our existence was similar, so we could really bond over it.
Well, and I have to tell you, I have a number of superpowers. I'm a legend in my own mind.
Oh, cool.
But one of my superpowers, having worked with couples in my nonprofit life, that's one of the things I did, is I have pretty good sense when couples do or don't like each other.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty intuitive that way. I think if most people kind of tune in, they go, oh, wow, I never thought of it, but they don't like each other.
Yeah.
And you guys actually like each other, which is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That all that time together and running a business, and not just running a business, but a startup, and not just a startup, a culinary startup, and you still like each other 15 years. I think congratulations to you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Feels good.
My favorite sound in the world is Sarah laughing. So that's like my goal. And when Sarah started the business, I knew that I could like help in some way. So I just constantly try to do the things to take more off of her plate so she can focus on her strengths. And that kind of like works in relationships, I think, too. You try to play to each other's strengths.
Okay, Dirk,
You're the best.
I'm a romantic at heart, and I think I just fell in love with
I
you.
know, right?
I'm going to call my wife and say, hey, I have this guy, Dirk. Man, he just stole my heart. That was so beautiful and so touching.
you.
I've
Sincerely.
got tears in my eyes, man.
Well, I didn't mean to. I was just speaking from the heart.
You were,
Sorry.
and
The
it's
sweetest.
and it's beautiful, and I'm being very sincere.
Oh,
That
thank you.
stuff is, I love romance, and I love people that actually like each other, and it's fantastic. Okay, let me see if I can get back on track here after
Sure.
being
I know,
sincerely
right?
moved. It's fantastic. Okay, so what year did you start Marshall's Hot Sauce?
In 2011.
2011.
In October of 2011 was our official launch date.
And so as I understand it, initially, you didn't want to start a hot sauce company for or against, neither way. You just wanted to be self-employed.
Yeah, I did. I knew I wanted to leave social work, and I think 10 years is, that's the number for you. It was the number for me. It was the number for Dirk.
Yeah.
I think there comes this point. I love social workers. They're my people. But sometimes you just do so much for so long for so many other people that when it's time for you to leave, you just know it. You know that it's time for the next person that can keep doing it to take over. And so that's where I was at. So I knew I needed to leave, or I needed to do something else. So I started taking some classes at Mercy Corps Northwest.
They do some really good business classes.
They do these great business classes. It's called Foundations of Business. And you go into it maybe not even knowing what you want to do, which is where I was. And you come out with a business plan. And so after 6 weeks, you have a direction. So I was making these sauces, but one of the things actually, I had these 2 files on my computer, and they're still on there. So it was to start a sauce company or to start a food cart, where I used those sauces to make food. And so you know the food cart journey, but those were the 2 options that I felt like I had. And I really just went with sauce because it took a little bit less money. So I could start it in my home. I didn't have to buy or rent a cart. And that was really the deciding factor between how the business started.
And, all due respect to food cart owners who are amazing in my world, but you chose a slightly easier path because, the hours and the heat and the cold, and people don't know how brutal it is to run a food cart. So hats off to you.
I just needed to start something that didn't take a lot of money and that I could be making money right away because I left my job. And I knew that I could come back to it. And I worked for Janus Youth. They wanted me to come back. And that really, I think, was the best part because it gave me the ability to kind of try my dream. And if it failed, I would still have a job, but I knew I needed to leave all the way. So I left all the way, but it kind of was like, oh, if this doesn't work, I can come back.
Okay. And as far as why, I'm always curious, why do they do, how did they get where they are? And then, it's why, if you start a business, why a business, and then why that business. And I think there's like a 3-stage process that's, I love how dots get connected. I kind of have goosebumps, actually, really. So why hot sauce? Tell me if I have this right. So stage 1 is canning with your mom from as early on as you can remember. Is that stage 1?
My mom has canned my whole life. So we've always had a garden where she grew the food, where we ate the food, where we made it together. It's been a really important part of my family growing up, then our family now with our daughter. And so canning was huge. When I worked in nonprofit, I would teach families how to can and cook together as part of their family transitions into healthier lives. I would cook the food for the kids at the group home. They just happened to like really spicy things. So I was making a lot of hot sauce, a lot of barbecue sauce. We were realizing that if kids weren't eating processed food, they were functioning better. Their bodies were functioning better. Their brains were functioning better. These were kids with behavioral issues. If we took all the preservatives and the food dyes out of their food, it was better for them. So it just seemed like this sort of natural thing that I was giving this food to the people that I loved, to the families and the kids and the staff. I would do these staff parties where I'd make taco bars with all the hot sauces and salsas, and people were into it. And I was just getting more out of that than I was out of this social work job, which maybe is a little bit selfish, but I just felt really good when I was giving these people this food that was making them feel good.
Okay, so you skipped ahead to stage 3, which is totally cool.
Geez.
Totally cool. Hey, I
I'm
love
all
it.
over the place.
No, I think it's fantastic. Okay, but just there's a connection, though, between canning and hot sauce, because a lot of canning, you end up making some, kind of hot sauce, right?
Yeah. So if you don't know much about canning or food production, the really important piece is that, the safest food we can make is acidified food. So that means hot sauces, salsas. It's an acid that's keeping your food safe. So when you get into canning, you really realize that. So those were the things that I was making. I was making hot sauces, salsas, things like that.
Okay, and just a shameless plug for you. Also, if you really want to know about canning, you wrote the book on canning.
I'm your gal if you want to know about canning. So I do. I've written a book, Preservation Pantry. I do canning classes and workshops, and I like to keep it alive.
And so people can go to your website for Marshall Hot Sauce, and your book is for sale right there.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, it's not just your book is for sale, an actual signed copy signed by the author.
Signed copy. And my book is out of print. So right now I'm the only person with copies.
That's true.
You can still download it on your Kindle, though, forever.
That's excellent. Okay. So then the next phase of your hot sauce journey, stage 2, as I understand it, is you're together, you're in your 20s. Money at that point might be a little bit of a struggle.
Yes.
And you discover that hot sauce is a way to enhance cheap food. Is that right, Dirk?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, when we met, as I mentioned in the black metal days, we didn't really eat as like a lot of people in their 20s. You just kind of like buy a loaf of bread and some waxy cheese.
Yeah,
and
you kind of eat food to survive.
Yeah, we were just making like a cheap grilled cheese sandwich. I think splitting it some days, which is crazy. And then you would just put hot sauce on it to make it interesting. And I think a lot of people do that. They enhance like their store-bought ramen by putting sriracha on there or whatever. It's just a common gateway into the world of spicy things.
And as you already covered, Sarah, flash forward to you're working in the group home.
Yes.
Stage 3 of, as I understand it, your hot sauce journey. You kind of have this canning background. You kind of love this hot sauce, and you're making hot sauce, and people are loving your hot sauce.
Yeah. They were into it. And so I just thought that I'm going to try it. Who knows what will happen?
And so that by the time you're done with the Mercy Corps, you go ahead and say, I'm going to start a hot sauce company.
Yeah.
Okay, and so where was the first place? You start a hot sauce company. Like, I'm thinking if I was to start one, where would I go to start selling? Because you gotta, starting a business is like a lemonade stand. You have to put your stuff out for someone to buy it.
You need a place, yeah.
So tell me about that first time.
My goal was to get into farmers markets, but I started in the winter, so the farmers markets weren't happening yet. So I worked these sales. It's called the Twilight Rummage Sale at the Eagles Lodge here on Hawthorne. And it was we knew of it because we would go record shopping.
Yep.
So people would bring all of their wares and they would have these tables, and you didn't have to be an Eagles Lodge member, which I wasn't, to have a table. And it was $12
Yes.
to have a table. And so I brought my hot sauce, and they were really into it because the Eagles are really into people owning their own businesses. So they wanted to support me. So right from the beginning, my very first following were all these bikers. They were these biker guys, and they just were into what I was making, and they just wanted to support me, which was really cool.
So what did it feel like the first time a guy or a gal walks up, whoever, and buys your hot sauce and you've made a sale?
It was amazing. It was exhilarating because in social work, people aren't really telling you thank you or what you're doing is great. And this immediately people were like, this is so cool that you're doing this.
Yeah.
And I love what you're making. And I love what you're doing. And I've always wanted to start a business. And so it was great. It felt really good.
Yeah, it's very different because anyone listening that makes something, the first people that you give that thing to, they're relatives or friends, so they're going to be
family.
pretty nice about it. So when people buy something, we would turn to each other and be like, we don't even know that person.
I still do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it never gets old. Probably a similar experience the first time you saw your book on a shelf in a bookstore. Just wow.
Still, yeah.
I'm like, I wrote that. And
Yeah.
it's here. And I don't even know the people that own the store.
Yeah, a friend, when the book came out, it was at Costco, and there was a big strip of them next to Harry Potter books, and it's just crazy to see your wife's book next to the Harry Potter book, and a friend took a picture of it and then took a picture of someone's cart because they were buying it. And he's like, you don't even know this person. And I'm like, now he's doing it.
Yeah, stuff got real, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I love that story. Okay, so something that kind of blew my mind. How many flavors did you have roughly day one, your first time Eagles Lodge Twilight Rummage Sale?
We had 4.
Oh my goodness. I just say that because most people that do a culinary startup, they have one thing.
They have one.
And why 4?
So it was part of my business planning. So I knew that I wanted to be in stores where I was making a gift for people. And that meant having more than just one bottle of sauce. So we designed a gift pack. It's not the same one we do now. Now the one is much nicer. But we designed one so people could buy 4 sauces at the same time as a gift.
And we're going to talk about, because those are your 4 flagship flavors for the end of podcast. We're going to talk about some of your flavors. But hats off to you from a business perspective, just like going for it, having 4 flavors.
Really, I can't recommend more. If you're starting a business, I think it's so good to go and take a class, even if you know exactly what you're going to do. Just the feedback that you get from other students, from the instructors. Like if they're doing it really well, then they're really they're setting you up to be successful. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be successful, but at least like you have something like this. I wouldn't have had that if I started the business on my own, for sure.
Yeah, and you told me that initially you made 12 bottle batches?
Yes.
So you had roughly 48 bottles that first day, and you sold almost all of them that first day.
We did, yeah.
And imagine if you just had 12 bottles.
Yeah.
Just one batch.
Sure.
Yeah.
One flavor.
You would just be sitting there.
Yeah, the
rest
first
of the
year,
time.
I think it was the first year we did Crafty Wonderland, which is like one of the gift events that happen here in Portland. It's like 200 makers, and we really it's an honor to be among the community of makers there. And we brought our sauce, and we sold out in 45 minutes of our first day.
And it was all the sauce that we had.
And that was literally everything we had. We were making things in crock pots. And we were staring at each other just like, what just happened?
And we paid to be there for 2 days, and so
Did you go home and try to make more?
Oh,
instantly.
Yeah. I left. I went and made more sauce.
I stood there and let people sample and told them we'll be back tomorrow.
The bottles were still warm when we were selling them to people from cooking them. Then we sold all of that sauce, and then I would stay up and set my alarm to like have the sauce be cooking, and then my alarm would go off at like 3 a.m. I would bottle that sauce, and then I would start the next batch and sleep for a little bit, and then...
And I put the labels on at the event.
Yeah. It was a wild ride.
I cannot tell you how much I love that story, because that's entrepreneurship, that's startup life.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. Okay, so you started in October 2011. You got through the winter, and by summer 2012, you're at the PSU Portland Farmers Market.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they let us. We didn't have a official spot,
right?
But because we were sourcing from the farmers, and at that time nobody was doing that. There wasn't anybody like me at the market. So I was buying food from the farmers at the market, and then bringing it back to my house, making it, bringing it back. So they let me kind of come in as a fill-in. So that if anybody canceled at the market, I could come have a booth there.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay, so some weirdness I discovered about you. You're still at the market. You're still at the farmer's market.
We are. So, which is unusual. So we've had the business now for 8 years. A lot of times, if there's people that started with us, they're definitely either they don't have a stand at the farmers market anymore because they're just in stores, but they're definitely not working the booth. So you will find Dirk and I working the booth. If it's not us, it's because we're doing something else. It's usually our parents that are there instead. But we like to be there. The market is really our community. It's where we found what we want to feel in our lives. So we want to know our farmers. We want them to be our friends. We want to see them every week. We want to see our customers every week. And we want to be the people that's selling you that sauce. And so
I mean, when people are shocked about that, one example I always bring up is there's people that'll come up and say things that are like the nicest possible things you could say to somebody. And if you're not the person there, you miss out on that. And so like someone will come up and be like, I give this sauce to my dad every year for his birthday, and he absolutely loves it. And I'm just like shocked because now you're a part of this family tradition, and it's just so rewarding.
Of people's lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really encourage people, to examine their journey, and I know for me it's possible to have I've done it. I have a fulfilling professional journey.
Yeah.
And it sounds like for you guys, part of what makes your professional life fulfilling and even personal life is you actually being there at the farmer's market.
Yeah, it's what does it for us. I mean, we feel good about it. We want to keep doing it. And, a lot of times people will say, what's your what's your 5-year
Oh, my
plan?
gosh.
Or what, where, are you going to blow it up? Like, people have been saying that to us since day
Forever.
one. And this is really our plan. We wanted to create a family business that we could do together, that our child could be at, although we didn't have her when we first started
Right.
the business, but that we could be there. And I always like to compare it to somebody owning like a butcher shop or a flower shop, in that this is what our family is doing. We're not doing this to sell, to do something else. This is where we want to be. This is what we want to do. And that's unique, I think.
I
you
think
don't
it's
really hear
beautiful.
that.
Okay, Dirk, I want to know about the name. I want to hear, where the heck did the name come from?
Yeah, so I think we were in New York at the time visiting a friend, and I love puns and jokes, and I also love that there was like a meaning behind something. I like layers to things, and so the idea of Marshall's Haute Sauce is that a lot of people just pronounce it hot, and so it's kind of a sound alike, and it kind of works. But then the French word means like high end and handmade and sort of small batch in a way. You always see it attributed to fashion, and since we were having everything designed to look beautiful, we were thinking about the ingredients and talking to farmers to grow specific strains of tomatoes and things. That's pretty unique to our sauces. It just seemed like we couldn't be caring more about what we were doing, so it had a meaning to it, but also a lot of people just stop by the booth and think it's funny.
Well, and I just to go with the name, I love your labels. I think they're elegant.
Oh, thank you.
I think your labels are elegant and absolutely love them. Nicely done on the design side.
Thank you.
We went with, we wanted it to look more like what beer and wine labels look like, because in the food world, a lot of times it's plastic and there's like cartoon images.
Yeah.
And we really wanted to follow along what the beer and wine makers were doing. So we get our labels printed at the same place that most beer and wine
wine stock.
makers. Yeah, wine. That's the paper.
That's fantastic. I love it. And I bet people come up with some funny names that when they try and pronounce it, that they don't know those words.
Oh, Hootie Sauce.
Yeah, Hootie Sauce a lot. They're like, what's Hootie Sauce?
What's Hootie Sauce?
And I usually say, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Not sure what Hootie Sauce is, but this is hot sauce.
No, that's funny. I like that. Okay, and then now, so you started 2011. You're this is 2009, so you're about 8 years in, or 2019, excuse me. You're about 8 years in, and so you are in a number of local stores around here.
Yeah, so we're in like local specialty stores. So New Seasons, Market of Choice, Zupan's, Providore,
Tender
places
Loving
like that.
Empire.
Yep.
Made here.
Crafty
And then in the
Wonderland.
holidays, you are across the country.
Yeah, so Williams Sonoma carries our gift pack for the holidays. So they just, holiday stuff works weird. So we already have their orders now. So we know that they'll be there again for this holiday. So
Yeah, it helps us as a small business that's hand making everything.
Yep.
That if someone's going to order 1,000 gift packs, which is 4,000 bottles, which
Wow.
is 2 labels on every bottle, each label gets stamped 2 times. It's a lot. So we need those like in September or something, so that when we're actually doing our holiday events, we still have sauce.
Right, and you can plan
to
for
plan.
it.
Yeah.
Yep, I love it. And then you also have an online store. People go to your website,
We do, yeah,
and
you
you'll
can order off our website.
ship all over the country.
all over.
Yeah.
And so in my head, right, wrong, or indifferent, I think of Texas and Arizona and maybe Southern California as like hot sauce hotbeds,
Yeah.
to make a bad pun. And you guys even have people; those places have it shipped to them.
Sure.
Yes, they do. I would say, New Mexico seems very into our
Oh,
hot
yeah,
sauce.
yeah, of
It
course. That's
ends up
Chili's.
there a lot. And then Florida is a surprising place. I'm not sure if it's just somehow
There's
people
also-
in Florida are loving us.
Yeah, people that come to Portland, of course, visiting for our wonderful food scene. They come to the market, and then when they come back to Portland, they'll bring us hot sauce from where they're from. And so we get gifted sauces from like the Caribbean and from all over. So
all
it's
over
pretty,
the world. It's awesome.
It's pretty amazing.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, kind of like the Portland food community has these sort of tentacles that outreach from people that come and visit and travel back.
But I think that's partially just because if I meet you at the farmers market and I visit Portland every couple of years or every year, and I realize you're there and I love hot sauce, I want to. There's that connection, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I've got this hot sauce that that I love that comes from wherever, and I'm going to bring it and share it with you. And
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens all the time, and it's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't know that would happen, but it's cool that it does.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. Given
Well, and there's so many people that travel to Portland, and we'll see so many people in the market. Like 20,000 people come through at the peak season in a day. And there was 2 guys that came up one time, and I'd run out of bags, and they were like, "Hey, do you have a bag?" And I was like, "Oh no, I don't." And they're like, "You didn't have one last year either." And I was like, "What?" And they travel like every year from Germany to come here, and I was out of bags 2 times in a row.
And they remembered.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, that guy.
Called me out on it. I was like, "From now on, I will forever have bags."
I think that is hilarious. Okay, let's talk about some of your hot sauces. People don't know. I want them to get to know it.
Sure.
We're going to talk about your seasonals and your flagships in a second. But you've got a number of seasonals. So let's start with the fall. What's your fall seasonal?
So that one, people are usually very excited for it to come out. So it's our ghost chili apple. So what we're waiting on and why it's seasonal is the apples to be in season. So we use local Honeycrisp apples. When apples are very first in season, they're very nice and sweet. So we don't add any sugar to that sauce or anything. The apples give it a little bit of sweetness and that matches the spiciness of the ghost chilies.
Yeah.
So that's our fall one.
And what's one thing I should do with that? If I buy the ghost.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we like to make this slaw with it that we'll put on sliders. So we take apples, because there's apples in it, and then apple cider vinegar, and then some of the sauce, and just toss it with cabbage, and it's really good. And then we'll top like pulled pork sliders that we've made with our
that
barbecue
sounds
sauce.
amazing.
Yeah, it's so good.
Okay, this one, your winter seasonal, I absolutely love. I think it's phenomenal. I've had it. So tell us about that.
Yeah, Cranberry Red Jalapeno. That one's really fun because we only make it when cranberries are harvested. So that's usually in October. We use local cranberries. And it's got all these warming spices in it. So like cinnamon, clove, star anise. And then the cool thing about that one is that it developed another product, which is a spicy wine that we make with Union Wine or Kings Ridge. And so it's got all of the flavors of the hot sauce, but in a wine. So it's cranberry juice, cinnamon, cloves, chili flakes. So it's like
Kings
a
Ridge
spicy,
Pinot Noir.
like a spicy mulled wine.
Wow.
And we do that one just for the holidays, and we'll have that again this year.
That's fantastic. Okay, so if I get the cranberry red jalapeno, right?
Yeah.
What's one thing I should do with that food wise?
Salmon.
Yeah, it's really good on salmon.
One of our favorite recipes is you just paint it on the top of the salmon and then crush up hazelnuts and parsley and pack that on top.
On
and then
panko
just,
breadcrumbs.
Panko,
Yeah.
and then just bake it.
It's so good.
Oh my goodness.
And
really
it's so
good.
easy.
Yeah, and really subtle. Like the whole family can eat it because it's not too spicy or anything.
That's phenomenal. I love that. Okay, and then you got a couple spring seasonals.
Yeah, so the ones we make when tomatoes aren't in season are Hatch Sesame Balsamic and our gin roasted pepper.
Okay, the Hatch Sesame Balsamic. That's not a balsamic. That is an actual hot sauce.
No,
Yeah.
it's just that we're using white balsamic vinegar in it, and then Hatch chilies and sesame seeds. But then we strain it out, so it has this really lovely, like velvety texture. It's one of those sauces. Like we have a lot of sauces that people just wouldn't make because the process is really long, and so that's definitely one of them.
Okay, and then what's one thing to do with the Hatch seasonal balsamic?
Chicken wings.
Yeah, so you just mix a little butter, soy sauce, the Hatch sauce, toss it in.
You can
wings
bake
in
them
it.
or fry them, but you
Yeah.
toss them in that, and it's so good.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, and how about the gin roasted pepper?
So gin roasted pepper, we
That's actually a really interesting process to that one.
So we rehydrate dried chilies in gin, and then we're adding roasted red peppers, and then there's some honey because sometimes dried chilies can get a little bit bitter.
We use Union gin.
Yes,
Which
from
is-
Dogwood Distilling.
Yeah.
So we use a local gin for that one. And so it has very few ingredients, but this really depth. And it's almost like a mole. Like we cook it down for a long time.
Yeah.
And then it's great for making fajitas.
Yeah.
It's
Super
so
easy.
good. So you can just toss peppers and chicken.
Also because I always tell people with this, when you're drying chilies and rehydrating things and roasting things, when you put that in a bottle, you can sort of taste the time it took to make that. So if you're doing, say, a veggie chili and you put a little bit of that in there, it tastes like it's cooked all day. So it's a great cheat for doing like a veggie chili.
And then, I love gin, and one of my rules is I only drink gin until noon. After 12 o'clock, I'll have everything else, including gin, but up until noon, I try to only have gin. There's some
rule.
days I have to break that rule. But does anyone ever made like a gin cocktail with the gin roasted
Not with
pepper?
that
Not
one.
with that one, but people have made cocktails with our
For
sauce.
sure, yeah.
Because I don't know if it would work or not, but I'm tempted to get some and try just because
Yeah.
I feel like it's my duty.
Try it. Let us know how it works.
Yeah.
Okay, and then your summer seasonal.
Yeah, so we have bird's eye basil and then caramelized scorpion ghost.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do I do with what's one thing I can do? And I know you have, just so people wonder, if they wonder, you have a lot of recipes on your website so people can find all kinds, but I like just to give one, just to entice them to buy it.
Yeah.
So what's one thing to do with the bird's eye basil?
The bird's eye basil, we take rice, like cooked white rice, just scramble up an egg with some of the bird's eye basil sauce and then put it together in a ball, and then you put it in a waffle iron. And so you have this spicy rice. It's
crispy
crunchy on the outside,
yeah.
soft in the middle, that you can top with then anything, veggies, meat, whatever, or you can just eat it.
That's fantastic. That sounds amazing.
So good.
Okay, and then how about the, it's caramelized scorpion
ghost.
Caramelized scorpion ghost. So that's our hottest sauce that we do. We're not really going for making people feel pain. We're not trying to make the spiciest sauces out there, but we are trying to make spicy sauces that taste really good. So the caramelized scorpion ghost, we caramelize the onions. It takes about 5 hours to caramelize them the way that we want them. And then we use the Trinidad scorpion pepper, which is one of my favorite peppers to use. It's very hot, but it's very fruity and floral. So there's a lot of flavor in it. And then ghost chilies don't really taste like anything, but they give this kind of body of the pepper to the sauce, because otherwise it would be, they give it some color too. It would be kind of gray if we didn't put those in there.
Yeah, even when you get up to like the spicier sauces, peppers that we use, we're definitely trying to like balance the heat with other seasonal ingredients. So we're definitely like more big flavors than straight heat.
Mm-hmm.
So the caramelized scorpion ghost, what's one thing I could do with that food-wise?
Dirk puts it on everything he eats.
Yeah.
Pizza, rice bowls, anything. It just adds a lot of flavor and heat.
Yeah. And that one I use like a traditional hot sauce where you drizzle on pizza, burritos, things like that. Another thing about that is we only do it one time a year. So that we just make 100 bottles of that. Yeah.
Oh, so people, if they get it, it's lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's people that will buy like 8 bottles or something, because our shelf life is 2 years. So people stock up on our things all the time.
Yeah, we've made more. We can make more.
It depends on the yield of peppers, though.
Yeah, it just depends on the peppers.
And cooking with those is a different world, right?
It's different because it's kind of going to overpower everything that you are making.
No, I mean, at your end, when you're making the hot sauce, you have
yeah.
to be careful handling those peppers. No joke, right?
Yeah. So the thing about hot sauce is that when you're doing the dishes is really when you're in danger, because if you do your dishes with hot water, it gets in the air. It's like mace. We used to have
aerosolizes? No, aerolizes? I'm something like that. I'm close.
It's in the air and you're breathing it and you're coughing and you're crying. And we used to have an office above our hot sauce kitchen, and we would hear it when we were making that sauce in particular, when we would do the dishes. Because even if you do it with cold water, it still does it, but especially if you do it with hot water. So every once in a while, we'd like kill the people upstairs.
That's funny. Okay, this is a really cool ongoing. It's not one of your 4 flagships, but it's currently an ongoing.
Yeah.
Uncle Nearest, 1856. Whiskey smoked ghost.
Yeah.
Tell me this story of this
That's a really fun one. So I think it's why we decided to keep making the sauce. We originally made it for the launch of the whiskey. So Uncle Nearest whiskey. It's made in Tennessee. This woman, Fawn, started the business. She was a writer for New York Times and was writing a story about Uncle Nearest. So he was the slave who most of the whiskey distillers, and I mean, you can look up which ones it were. I don't want to get the facts wrong, but it's the big ones. They were checking out this person to learn how to make their whiskey in the very beginning times of them developing the businesses. So she figured that out. It seemed like everyone knew that, but people weren't really talking about it. So she wrote an article about it, and then she decided to do something about it. So she wanted
to give honor where honor's due.
She did,
exactly.
Yeah, and she did it the finest way you could do it. So she bought the plantation that he lived on. She started this whiskey company using his recipe to make it. The money from the company goes towards putting all of his family through college that ever wants to go to school.
Yep.
And she continues to tell his story. So it's really awesome.
And they do community outreach too.
Yeah, they do all kinds of great things. So look them up. They are out there. And we make this hot sauce with this whiskey. And we like I said, we originally just made it for a party. We wanted to keep telling this story, so we keep making it. And what we do for that one is the ghost chilies are smoked, and then we are rehydrating them in the whiskey.
And roasting onions in the whiskey, too.
Roasting onions in the whiskey. And so we kind of carefully chose the ingredients that we use to make it so that if if Uncle Nearest was going to be making a hot sauce at that time, what would he be doing? So we were kind of collecting these natural ingredients. So we did a natural apple cider vinegar. We used some dates, and we just kept it really simple, but it's awesome. It's spicy. It's a little bit sweet from the dates. It's smoky. It's a fun one.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, what's one thing to do with that one?
We like it on anything you're going to grill. So grilled mushrooms, just paint a little bit on grilled meat.
Would it be good on a burger, Dirk?
Oh, yeah. It's great
Dirk
on a
likes it
burger.
on a burger.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is not a hot sauce, but wow, this just looks amazing to me. Your Brava sauce.
Yeah, so the Brava sauce is we do these chef collaborations every once in a while, maybe one a year or so. This one is with Jose from Ataula, a local Spanish restaurant here in town, and he makes an amazing Brava sauce, and it's his, it's on his potatoes bravas. It's so good. And we went to the restaurant to learn how to make the sauce. We do a version of it. So it's a little bit different because he's using, Spanish ingredients and we use local ingredients. So we kind of tweaked things a little bit and came up with this sauce that he loves. And they use it at the restaurant. So you can go and get a dish there. They do this Spanish chorizo that's got thinly sliced potato wrapped around it, and then they fry it, and then you dip it in the sauce. So good.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And so if I'm going to make potatoes bravas at home,
Yeah. Sure.
I could get your sauce.
Yes, get the sauce. You can buy it at the restaurant, or you can buy it from us at the farmer's market. You can also get it online. And it's not spicy. It has so much flavor, but, Spanish food in general isn't overly spicy. So it's not going to be like our hotter sauces, but it's got apples and tamarind, and we use smoked paprika, sherry vinegar. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Okay, now we're coming down to the 4 flagships. So you can get this hot sauce sampler, this really cool box of 4, or you can buy them in bigger sizes by themselves, whichever way you go. So the smoked habanero barbecue, that's more of a barbecue sauce than a hot sauce. Is that right?
Totally. So that's one of the ones I started making actually when I was in the group home. So barbecue sauce, almost at the time, you could only get barbecue sauces that were thickened with corn syrup. And so I experimented with making a sauce that I just used thyme. So I roast the sauce in the oven at 500 degrees for 5 hours. So all of the vegetables and sugars caramelize. It has the same texture as a barbecue sauce, but no corn syrup or thickeners. It's just my sweet time.
And it's our mildest. It's kind of sweet, smoky. And it also shows, like, even when we started, not just the name of the business, but with the flavor combinations, we were messing with people's expectations. So our mildest is a smoked habanero barbecue. And we've constantly had to tell people, like, no, it's the mildest. It's kind of sweet and smoky. And people are like, but it says habanero on it. And it's like...
And we use habanero in there, but it's very little.
Yeah.
And you're using it judiciously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sarah really wanted in the beginning to show... And here I am putting words in your mouth, and you have a
That's
microphone.
Cool.
To show people how to wisely use peppers, because at the time everything was just like so hot. If it said habanero, you were like just gonna melt your mouth off.
Yeah.
And so she wanted to show how you can use a little bit. In fact, even in the Brava sauce you were just talking about, there's ghost chilies in it, and it's on the milder side. And when I tell people that, they like try it and try to find the ghost chili, but it's used so adeptly, you can't really.
I like it. It's like for kind of the old days in the beer business where they would make really bitter IPAs with tons of hops, whereas now there's more of a trend toward using the hops for flavor and aroma. You don't have to just have this incredibly bitter experience.
Right.
And I just focus on the vegetables. I mean, my whole thing is I want to tell the story of the farmer's market. So, in each of our sauces, it's really more about the vegetables that I'm using than it is the peppers.
I love the color of this one, and it tastes fantastic. The red chili lime.
Oh, yeah. So that one, it's pretty, simple. It's red jalapenos, tomatoes, vinegar, and then we use some local honey to give it a little sweetness. And we love to make guacamole with it.
Yeah.
Because you can just use a little bit on the avocado, and it keeps the avocados from turning brown. And
done.
Yeah, it's so
everything's
good.
in the bottle.
Oh, okay. My mind's blown right there. That's fantastic. Okay. Habanero carrot curry.
Yeah.
A curry hot sauce.
Yeah.
It's my favorite sauce.
It's the first sauce that you made.
Yeah,
So it
it's
kind
the
of is
first
the
one I
sauce
made.
that changed our lives.
Ooh, I like that.
It's really, I love the carrots in there. The carrots give it sweetness. I would say it's not our most popular sauce unless people can try it.
Yeah.
So sometimes, for some reason, people don't think they like carrots or curry. is the big thing. So, and the curry is just a curry blend that we have our spice guy make. So it's got, like fenugreek, cinnamon. It's got turmeric, and we use fresh turmeric too, which is why the color is so glowing and beautiful. But it's really good. It's very versatile. We use it more as like something to add a lot of flavor from the market to a dish. So we do a lot of grain bowls. So we'll just put a tablespoon in the water when we're cooking the grains, and it gives it a lot of flavor. But then it's palatable to everybody. So our daughter will eat it. It's not spicy.
So maybe quinoa. What other grain?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Quinoa, farro. We eat a lot of groats, which is like an oat, but it's not smashed, so it's like doesn't become mushy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, put it in there. Try it out.
Sounds good. I know my sweetheart sometimes will have a savory oatmeal.
Yeah,
where she'll put like hot sauce in oatmeal, but she loves it. Yeah, and that sounds like it'd be fantastic in there.
I think she'd like it.
Okay, and then Serrano ginger lemongrass.
Yeah.
This just is an incredible I don't know where you got the idea. I love lemongrass. How did you come up with the idea for this?
Well, it's really about what's in season at the same time. So the market came up with it because lemongrass, ginger, and serrano peppers are all available at the market at the same time. That's it. That's really, it's not my genius brain. It's the genius world of the people that grow the stuff. So Groundwork Organic grows a lot of those things. But yeah, so that one is our most popular sauce. People like it.
It's also something not a lot of people know is that a lot of times when Sarah comes up with recipes, the inspiration are from individual people. And that Serrano ginger lemongrass doesn't have onions in it. Our most popular sauce doesn't have onions. And it's all from a woman that was at a market, right? And she couldn't have any salsa or hot sauce because they all had onions. And you were like, I'm going to make a sauce.
That recipe came before we were at the market. So I think it was someone I worked with actually at that time. But I've done that before too for people that have garlic.
Because some people are allergic to onions.
Yeah, some people are allergic to onions. Some people are allergic to garlic. So over the years, I've kind of adapted certain things where I've been like, oh, remember that lady that said she couldn't have this? I'm going to just try to make something like with this. So the bird's eye basil is made with leeks instead of onions because there's people that can eat leeks, but they can't eat onions. So...
Well, that's good to know. Yeah. I like that. Okay, so what's something I should do with the Serrano ginger lemongrass?
So people's favorite recipe right now is one that New Seasons ran for us, and it is halibut with coconut milk and some of the Serrano ginger lemongrass sauce.
Yep. And just bake it.
Yep. That's it. Simple, easy, delicious.
But, being at the market and hearing firsthand from people will come up and tell you things you never thought of. So there's a huge egg quotient of people that are like, I just whisk it into egg and then, do my scrambled eggs and has the sauce already in there flavoring it. There's a man that buys 6 bottles at a time just for quesadillas. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I would never think like ginger lemongrass, but it's actually really delicious.
I bet it's amazing.
Yeah. So it's always fun that people come up and they're like, I make deviled eggs with your deep sea chili sauce. And you're just like, wait, what? Okay. I would have never. Okay.
Yeah, I have a good friend, and he makes his thing is making amazing deviled eggs, and he's always kind of coming up on a riff on a new one. Recently, he did a Greek style deviled egg that was amazing, and then he put balsamic over it. It made the pictures beautiful, and it tasted even better. And how cool to have a hot sauce based deviled egg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try it.
Well, and to have people have parties and have people over and they're entertaining with something that we made and you're just like, what? How did I? This is incredible and so thoughtful.
So cool.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. You guys should do a crowdsourced recipe book, recipes from all of you. That would be a lot of fun. Yeah, that would be really cool. Yeah, because I would buy a Marshall's hot sauce recipe book. That would be a lot of fun.
Let's put it on the books.
I know. I come up with new business ideas all the time.
All the time. I bet. Well, guys, it's been a delight having you on the podcast. You are everything I love about the Portland culinary scene. You do amazing stuff. You do it really well. Your heart is based in the community. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're not sure you like hot sauce, time out. First of all, I'm kind of a wimp, but I love their hot sauce. And you can get the Brava sauce or you can get the smoked habanero barbecue sauce. There's things where if you really just can't handle any heat, there's still plenty of amazing stuff that you can get, right?
Yeah, totally. We got you. You can just ask us which one is the best one. We won't put you in the right.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Dirk and Sarah, it's just been a delight having the podcast. I wish you guys all the best.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Cheers.